Hello and welcome to another video of my vintage electronics channel. Now nobody watches videos in date order. If you do, then you'll be aware that I am working on a Bush VHF 64 radio. Now I've hit a few snags with that radio and I've just taken it off the bench for the moment just to recharge my energy and just think about how I'm going to go about fixing that particular radio. So what I've done in the meantime is I promised to do a radio up for my friend, and so I'm doing it for mates rates, so a little bit of money there for me. It's a Bush DAC90A, which is a classic British radio, classic shape, well sought after. Quite a lot of them available, but they do cost a little bit of money. Still affordable, and if I like it, I'll go and get one. This is the more sought after cream case, and although it's more sought after, I personally prefer the darker tortoiseshell casing that this radio is available in. Now, there is a lot of videos out there covering the Bush DAC90A, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. It's more of a record of the work I'm doing and some of the problems that I might come across along the line. So let's just see how we'll get on. So here's this Bush DAC90A, and it's in actually very, very good condition. The dial glass here looks immaculate, actually. Everything seems to work. Nice click on the switches. Dial-in cord works. There's a little ding in the grill there, so I might be able to push that out. There's no cracks in the casing. Just reversing it. I'll turn it around to look at the back. So the back's in good condition. It's just one screw missing, so I might be able to replace that. And it's got the power prongs here, and I do have the power cord. I think personally I'm going to replace that. It's broken anyway. You can buy these, but I know this is actually a live chassis, so I won't be able to earth that chassis. But there's probably good reason to put maybe a protective earth on the grill there. So I'll probably be looking to replace that connector. I'm not really decided yet how I'm going to do that. So I think the next stage is to get the back off and have a look inside, and we'll take it from there. So back off. It's very dusty indeed, and strangely enough, this is polystyrene. So I don't really know where that's come on, but it's extremely dusty all over the place. So what I'll need to do is carefully read the instructions, because I've got the service manual, is take the chassis out of the case and give it a good clean visual inspection, and we'll get an assessment as to what work needs to be done. The radio is now out of the chassis, and it's quite easy to do. The thing to remember is don't pull at the knobs. There's a screw on each of them, actually, so that can be accessed from the back for the wave selector. And if you look underneath the case, there's two holes which allow you access to the screws for the tuning and volume knobs. So just make sure, if you're working on these radios, that you don't pull at the knobs and you just screw them out. Getting them back in might be tricky, because I don't think the magnetic screws. I'll check that later. You can see the chassis is really dusty. So next job now is cleaning up. I'll probably remove the speaker cone. I might leave it connected at the moment, but it's a little bit inconvenient. So I might cut those wires and just make a little jumper connection. Might be easier to work with in the future. Let's go with this job now. So the radio chassis is out of the case and it's cleaned up really well. There's actually very little sign of wear here. The valves, and I've had a good look at these, there's no blackening on there at all. It suggests to me this has had very little use indeed. What we'll do, we'll just have a look at the underneath. So looking at the underneath of the chassis just confirms what I believe about this radio. I've actually made this little frame to mount the unit on, and look at these wax paper capacitors. It just confirms that this has had very little use. You can see these don't feel gloopy at all. They're coated in the wax as it should be, but normally they're kind of melted and distorted and blackened. These look almost new. Gives me a bit of a dilemma, really, because you would want to try it really and just use them as it is, but realistically these paper capacitors absorb the moisture. These are over 70 years old now, so more likely than not the dielectric is acidic, potentially perish down, so they will be very leaky. If it was my radio, I think I'll change the filter capacitors. There are actually a number of cathode bypass capacitors which are relatively low voltage or operate at low voltage, and they may be okay. But realistically, this radio is going out to somebody to use on a daily basis, so I will be changing these wax paper capacitors just as a matter of precaution, really. I will be testing them as well. I'm pretty sure they're all going to be leaky. So it seems a shame, but I think realistically to bring this back into service, that's the right thing to do. I'm going to bring the radio up under control conditions. I've got a dim bulb in line, first of all, with a variac, and then most importantly an isolation transformer. This is a live chassis, so it's critical that you have an isolation transformer. I use this old site transformer, which is 240 volts in, 240 volts out, and that can supply about 2.1 amps continuously. So it's good for this sort of job. And I've got a voltmeter on here as well, just to see what voltage we're actually putting into the system. So I'm just going to switch things on slowly, put the dim bulb on, and I'm just going to bring this, make sure it's at 0, just bring the system on. So I'll just bring up the voltage slowly, maybe up to 40 volts first. So on the voltmeter we've got 44 volts AC. Still nothing on the dim bulb. And just give it a little bit of time. Bringing it up to 65 or 70 volts. Still no sound there, wouldn't I expect there to be. Come up to 100 volts. $120. It's 140. Still nothing on the radio, nothing on the dim bulb. Just take my time over this process. $160. Keeping well away from the chassis. Must not touch that at all, even with the isolation transformer. And there we are. That's 180 volts. So we're just getting something significantly on the dim bulb. I don't really want to go much higher than that. I'm not anywhere near 200 volts. So could be a couple of things here. There could be a loss of electricity down through this system with the isolation transformer. That might be one factor that's bringing the bulb on. This is a 120 watt bulb, so it's 150 watt bulb, so it's quite high. It could also indicate that we've got a leaky capacitor in the system here. So the options are to reform if it's an electrolytic, or replace. I will be replacing. And I think we need to do that for that particular filter capacitor. I did a little bit more testing just to work out whether the dim bulb was coming on due to the inefficiencies of the isolation transformer. I've not really used this transformer before, and it appears that was the actual case. So I'm running 240 volts through the radio now, and I'm getting a station. It is distorted, which suggests to me there might still be a problem with the filter capacitors, but this is definitely a big step forward. So I'll carry on doing some testing at the moment before I work out exactly what elements I'm going to be changing. So I'm going to change the main filter capacitor. This is it here. So on the red, we have 32 microfarads, and what is fed by yellow wires on this lead, 16 microfarads, and that's the ground on the black. Yeah, 275 volts is the working voltage. You can actually get a modern replacement of the same physical size. So this is 32 again on the red, 16 microfarads on the yellow with the ground there, and that is 500 volts for the working voltage. So it's a good replacement, same physical size. I'm sure some people will complain about the colour not being silver, but that's the way it is. I'd rather change the capacitor because the radio is going out to a friend. I want them to be as safe as possible. Obviously, I'll include the original. So if the radio ever gets passed on and they're finally reforming, then they can do that if they want to. I'm not personally convinced about reforming with these 75-year-old capacitors. I'm told these reform very well, but I need to investigate that for myself really before I make up my mind. But for the moment, I think the best thing to do is actually make that change. There is one other capacitor to change, and it's C22, which sits directly across the mains. It's a wax paper capacitor, and of 0.1 microfarads. So I would want to change that as well. Other than that, actually, the wax paper capacitors are pretty much cathode bypass capacitors. So it'd be interesting to see when I make these changes whether the radio improves. So I've changed 3 capacitors in total, 2 of those in one can. And what I've done, I've changed this C22, which is the main filter capacitor, which goes directly across the mains input. That was a 100 nanofarad capacitor. It's a wax paper capacitor. Now that was measuring about 160 nanofarads or 260 nanofarads on a different tester, and very leaky, so there's no recovering that, so that has to go. I suspect most of the other wax paper capacitors are like that. And obviously the reservoir capacitor, which is these 2 here, those have been changed with that black, now is the black can. I think this was measuring okay actually, a little bit high, but like I say, I've changed that now. I would change it because the radio's going out. So the other thing I've done, the speaker was going to get damaged. It was in the way, so I've actually just made a little jumper arrangement, which actually is better really for servicing the radio, rather than have it sort of permanently attached to the chassis. So I'm in a position now to give it a try. So no real change in the quality of the radio. I think it's a little bit louder. Not really surprised with that. So I'm going to carry on changing the wax paper capacitors. Hopefully it'll resolve the particular issue. Still very distorted on the audio though. So that's the radio recapped now, and every single one of these wax paper capacitors was leaky and well out of tolerance, so I'm glad I changed those. The radio is a lot louder now. But I can get quite a lot of volume there before we're actually getting distortion. So I think it's basically there. There are some resistors which are out of tolerance, and I will be changing those. That's going to be the next task. I've now gone on to change the out of tolerance resistors, and there are quite a few of them. All of them pretty high actually by some way. The ones that are in tolerance are either well in tolerance or just on the edge of tolerance, and I left those in place. So electrically, I believe this is all done now. One thing to note is the mains inlet here. This plate, which holds the pins, is intact from the outside, but it's obviously delaminating on the inside. I just wonder if that was one of the reasons why the radio stopped being used. I was going to change that anyway, so that would be the next job, is to get a proper mains lead on the modern one. It'll be a 3-wire lead. I'm just going to run a wire to the grill, the speaker grill, because that's a potential electrical hazard externally. Obviously, I can't earth the chassis because it's a live chassis, but I'll try and make it as safe as possible. That's the radio done electrically. I've got the new mains lead fitted, and I'm very pleased with the result there. I've got the radio oriented at 90 degrees like this because I was getting a lot of interference when it was actually facing the front, and I thought that was another problem, but just moving the radio around sort of has cleared that issue up. I'm still getting a little bit of audible sounds when the volume control is at its minimum, and that seems to be a common problem with these radios, that the potentiometer track wears a little bit at the bottom end. I'm not sure if it's worth doing anything with that. I haven't got a spare part, and I want to keep the radio original. It's not particularly big problem, so I'll see how I'll get on with that. And yeah, so just tuning the radio up.
Within 13 months, and there'll be a maximum
we've got some talk sport there, and hopefully we'll get a little bit of music at this end. Yep, well, it's sounding pretty good actually, so I'm really pleased with the results there. Yeah, so we'll get it back in the case and give it a good soak test.
For a natural finisher there. I think that stands, and that's an area where Arsenal fans would be thinking, well, blimey, maybe we should have gone big in the summer on a recognised.
That's the Bosch DAC90A done, all back together, tested, going back to its owner. Thoughts about this radio? It's a great beginner's radio. If you want something to work on, then it's absolutely perfect for that. It's a very simplified circuit, and all components are easily accessible, well laid out. So it's been a great challenge for me, really. Not too much effort to put into it, but I've enjoyed every step of the way. Thoughts about the radio itself? It's, I think because of its simplified circuit, it's been built to a cost, something to appeal for the masses, really. And given its iconic styling, it's not surprising that these sold in such volumes that they did. I think the downside is that because it is a simple radio, the quality of the sound isn't really there. I find it a little bit tinny. There's no tone control there, but it does its job, and it's a very nice radio to have. And I might acquire one for myself now that I've done this one. So yeah, it's great. So hopefully you found this video useful, you've enjoyed it. If you do, please do like and subscribe. Any comments also appreciated, and I'll catch you with the next project.